Chair now recognizes the gentleman from Florida, Mr. West.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Honorable Gordon, pleasure to have you here today. I'd like to speak from experience on this because after serving 22 years in the United States Army, I was a DoD contractor. So I want to ask you this very simple question. The Department of Defense sends out an RFP to have recently retired individuals that can go and help to augment the military, Afghanistan or Iraq. Why, before a contract is awarded, would you then have the head of an organization, retired 3-star or 4-star general, disclose his political affiliations or contributions? What impact does that have on that request for proposal?
I want to make very clear, Congressman West, 2 points. One, to the extent that you're taking me into a discussion of the details of the draft executive order, I don't feel comfortable speaking, but I think I can still address the point.
But why are you here, sir?
I think I can address the point. As soon as I heard the acronym RFP, I realized that you do have experience in this area, and that's helpful.
Absolutely.
The contracting officer who's awarding that contract will never take into account political contributions, but the public may want to know. She, the contracting officer, or he, the contracting officer, will not take that information into account. The only thing that they will take into account are the factors in the RFP. The question isn't, is it going to be a factor in the selection? The question is, does the public have the right to know what contributions were made by contractors?
But what bearing does that have on the request for proposal for someone to come in and provide services for the Department of Defense, their political contributions? I guess my question is, what has been broken in the procurement process up to this point, which leads to that draft executive order being proposed?
As a general matter, as I said earlier, every procurement system, ours, the states, the local governments, and foreign ones, are constantly facing a risk that the public will view their system as tainted, because the fact is enormous numbers of dollars of taxpayer funds are at risk in the procurement system, and in order to instill confidence in the public, you want to have as much transparency as you can.
But you don't think that the American people would have confidence in a retired 3-star or 4-star general to be able to, with his team, be able to write an RFP to compete for a contract? What purpose does it have with this draft executive order to bring forth this requirement to disclose your political contributions? What is the purpose of that with that RFP? What is the purpose of that in the awarding of this contract? As we have said, I can understand after a contract is awarded, that's public knowledge. But why is that part of the criteria that we have up front?
It would absolutely not be part of the evaluation criteria. Absolutely not part of the criteria, sir.
But correct me if I'm wrong, that's what this draft executive order brings forth.
The only question is whether companies that want to get contracts should be required to have made disclosure of their contributions. Contributions would never be a criterion for selecting a company.
And then I come back to my original premise. What has been broken with the process up to this point that was the impetus for this draft executive order to be created?
There is concern in every system, including ours, that award decisions may have been affected by inappropriate considerations. Having more of information to the public, available to the public, having more transparency can help strengthen confidence.
Would subsequent subcontractors or subsequent employees be also be under the jurisdiction of this draft executive order, such as myself when I was hired on to go to Afghanistan in June 2005?
I don't feel comfortable responding to the question, sir. I'm not in a position.
Well, then I'm going to ask this one last question. As you sit here today, do you support that draft executive order or not?
I'm not in a position to talk about the draft executive order, sir.
Well, I don't understand why you're here. It's a simple question. Do you support the draft executive order that is placed before you right now or not? Yes or no question?
I am not in a position to express an opinion about the draft.
I yield back.